Welcome. Today I will be paraphrasing, summarizing, and sharing for the January 20th Al-Anon readings and Courage to Change and a little time for myself. We'll begin with the Serenity Prayer and 3 mindful breaths. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Begin with a little time for myself. And I will take a moment to look over this reading. The question of the day is, how has my perspective changed since coming to Al-Anon? Excuse me. The passage begins with a situation where this person's eyeglass lenses cracked and they were angry and frustrated and discouraged and they couldn't see anything clearly. And as when they got their glasses, their whole perception changed, and they're likening that to coming to Al-Anon. Before they came to Al-Anon, it was similar to when their eyeglasses were cracked. They felt frustrated, angry, discouraged, unable to see things clearly. But just like when they got their lenses repaired, after they came to Al-Anon, they got a new perspective, and things were more clear. Today's reminder reminds us that we have tools in Al-Anon to help us see more clearly. And the quote is from Living with Sobriety. And it talks about how we're never alone when we're in Al-Anon. Well, we're never alone anyway because we have our higher power. But being in the group, in a fellowship, helps us gain perspective. So how has my perspective changed since coming to Al-Anon? I guess the biggest change is that I know that I'm not the only one who's had the experience that I had, and that I didn't do anything terrible to cause it or to try it. Well, that I'm not a failure because I couldn't control it, and I'm not a failure because I couldn't cure it. Because nobody, no human being can cause it, control it, or cure it for somebody else. So I guess that's the biggest way my perspective has changed, because I felt a whole lot of shame thinking that I had somehow failed my loved one by letting this happen. Somehow I caused it to happen. I didn't know how, but I couldn't figure out how because I didn't cause it. It's impossible to cause it. So I think that was the biggest change in my perspective. Also, another very big change was just the idea of hope and manageability, how things can be managed and navigated, and it's not the end of the world. There's hope. And also the idea that I'm never alone because of my higher power. I always, my relationship with, the idea of a higher power was and is still being cultivated because of my willingness to work my program. Otherwise, I think it would still be developing, but it would be different because I wouldn't have all the suggestions and the resources that Al-Anon gives me. So that's how my perspective has changed since coming to program. Now we will move on, and I will take a minute to look this over. This passage is about anonymity and how important it is. It's called a spiritual foundation of all our traditions. That's a quote. So we don't use our last names in Al-Anon. We don't. It's so interesting because in one way I feel like I know the people in my group so well, like the ones even that I don't talk to outside of the meeting, or at least up until this point I haven't talked to outside of my meeting. I feel like I know them pretty well because they're sharing the most personal details of their lives with me and the rest of the meeting when they share. But a lot of times I don't know what they do for a living. I don't know their last name. I don't know, I might know if they're married, but I don't know like their family details a lot of the times. And that's completely okay. We all benefit from the program because we feel safe, free from labels, and we can just be who we are. And that's the gift of anonymity. Today's reminder is talking about how we're never alone by being part of Al-Anon, and how keeping the fundamental spiritual principle of anonymity is extremely important to maintaining our program and everyone feeling safe and comfortable. And I think it just brings more of a focus to the issue and not all the outside factors. That was a lot of paraphrasing because that's not what it says, but it does say that it's a fundamental spiritual principle regarding anonymity. And then the quote is from Why Anonymity in Al-Anon. And it talks about how we should all be able to leave an Al-Anon meeting knowing that what we shared will never be repeated. And it's part of our closing that we don't talk about what was said in a meeting outside of a meeting. We don't gossip. We don't jeopardize the trust and the authenticity that's been expressed in the meeting. And the whole goal is for everyone to feel that they can share whatever they need to feel whatever they need to share to feel better. And it stays in that meeting. It's really very, very important. And it's also a good practice. We don't gossip. We don't gossip in Al-Anon. We don't gossip outside of Al-Anon about Al-Anon people, but I like to carry that to all areas of my life where when I catch myself thinking about gossiping, or if I catch myself already starting to gossip, I try to stop myself and then, like, what am I doing? It's not productive. It's not healthy. So anonymity, so important, so important. We'll close out with the serenity prayer and 3 mindful breaths. Here we go. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Sending you love. Take care.